After an awful 2023, Marvel and DC are both kind of taking a break next year so that in 2025, both sides can be ready to deliver some amazing comic book movies. On one hand, you have Marvel that needs to absolutely slow down the amount of content that they've been producing over the course of several years, an issue that was kind of percolating throughout Phase 4 quickly became an issue for Phase 5, as it felt like Marvel just crashed and burned this year, for the exception of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and Loki Season 2. On the other hand, you had DC. This was the DCEU's final year, and I will get more into that in its own separate video once I finally talk about the DCEU has its own thing. But, of course, we're here to talk about just the 2023 comic book movie landscape. And it was very Marvel and DC centric this year, obviously. There was a few other ones. Now I'm gonna say that The Killer is not on this list, not because it doesn't count, but because I just haven't seen that movie. So sorry, David Fincher and Fincher fans, but there is no The Killer. So this is more traditional, I guess you could say, just superhero movies on this list. I've seen all of these, so let's rank them one last time. At least in the case of the DCEU, one last time, because this franchise is over. All right. Hitting ninth place, what I think is the worst MCU movie, and what I thought was the worst comic book movie of the year, and also just the worst movie of the year, was Ant-Man and the Lost Quantumania. There was maybe one more project that came pretty close to being as bad as this movie, but yeah. Having your big Avengers threat lose to ants is probably not the most ideal thing. Also, this movie is just very boring and bland, and the characters, they don't necessarily change. They're the same characters they were from the beginning of the movie, which just goes to show you that none of the events of this movie needed to happen, like at all. Actually, like when you look at the grand scheme of things, you're like, did Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania really need to happen for the MCU's sake? Especially now, since there's kind of question marks about Kang's future due to obvious outside things that have happened with Jonathan Majors and him no longer moving forward as Kang. Should Marvel not reboot, but should Marvel recast the character, or should Marvel just say, who's this Kang guy? Loki kind of handled him in the second season. So, not Loki per se, but I guess the TVA. So I guess there's just kind of question marks, but I just never was interested in Kang to begin with. My main problem with Kang in this movie is that he's all talk and no business, and I feel like for a villain, they need to have that balance of being a great talker but they also could back up the talk. And that's what I like about Thanos. Thanos could have been like Kang. He could have been like this, oh, I'm the Mad Titan, I'm evil, I've killed, blah, 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 blah. But nah, he just showed it in his actions by immediately beating up Hulk in the first 5 minutes of Avengers Infinity War. I mean, sure, that had dangerous and damaging effects to Hulk's character in Infinity War, but it is what it is. You feel me? But overall, Quantumania did not really need to happen. All right, number 8 is Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. I wasn't the biggest fan of the first Aquaman movie. Like, I understand why people like it. I could get why it became a $1 billion movie, but this is just the worst version of that. This feels like finally a discount kind of sale DVD type of movie where you find it in the bin and you're like, oh, Aquaman, I guess. Sure. I mean, I can't even explain. I mean, it's a pretty simple story, but I just wasn't interested in this as much. I mean, Jason Momoa is just Lobo. So I don't know if they should cast him as Lobo because he would just be acting like Aquaman, or maybe not a lot of people even watch this movie, so it doesn't matter. I mean, that's the kind of the same issue with Zolo Man. I'm gonna butcher his last name, but the Cobra Kai guy that plays Blue Beetle. It's like, well, did anybody even watch Blue Beetle to complain about? Sorry. To complain about Blue Beetle, not really. No, Aquaman 2 is just, it's stupid. It's stupid, but it kind of owns up to being a stupid movie in a way. Black Manta, I know he's getting a lot of praise. I did not like Black Manta in this movie. Black Manta was too goofy for me in this movie. Like, he was very just an odd person. Like, if he was a real person in real life, he would probably get bullied. And that's the best way I can explain Black Manta. But Orb, Ocean Master, in this movie, he felt more like traditional Aquaman, so I felt like I wasn't completely ripped off. I did get Aquaman. It's not Jason Momoa. It's more so Patrick Wilson. Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say. He eats a cockroach to end the franchise. What more can you say? All right, number 7, Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Probably the most disappointing. Maybe the second most disappointing movie on this list. Because I was actually excited for this movie. The first Shazam is actually pretty good and was a fun superhero movie when fun superhero movies were actually fun and good. This one is just generic. That's it. It's the most generic superhero movie. Like, if you were to ask AI, hey, make like a fantasy based superhero movie, this would probably be it. Yeah, the villains, they did not pick any Shazam comic villains. They made them up. That's how much they have confidence in Shazam's rogues gallery that they were like, this shit is too goofy, so let's just create our own villains, I guess. And I will always state that this cinematic universe never having Shazam fight Black Adam, not once when we've had 3 Shazam/Black Adam related movies, is crazy to me. Like, they never fought. And that would have been more interesting. I mean, would it be a better movie? Probably, to be honest, if we just got Dwayne Johnson punching Zachary Levi's face and Zachary Levi ultimately beating him at the end. But instead we gotta deal with the world ending with all of this bullshit. Who cares at this point? Like, when Wonder Woman came, I was like, yeah, this franchise was dying. Like, James Gunn did Old Yeller and put it out of its misery because this was just, like, the most generic superhero movie. Like, I did not remember anything after I saw it. Also, similar to Aquaman 2, has a useless post-credit scene. Bam! Number 6, The Marvels. Wow. Going from Captain Marvel to another Captain Marvel movie. It's not been a great year for Marvel or DC, like I've been saying, but for Marvel, it's been like, y'all have been very lazy. Because The Marvels it's not a movie. It's not a movie. It's just a series of, like, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. There's not really, like, an actual plot happening, to be honest. And then the whole thing about the villain, I forgot the villain and her deal about her people dying. Why didn't Captain Marvel think of restarting the sun? I mean, I know she was like, oh, I don't think I could do it, but it was like, but you just never attempted to fix it? Like, for how many years now? You like, Monica mentions it, and you're like, oh, I never thought of that. Like, that could have saved the whole conflict. But when you have a character now that could restart the whole sun, why is she wasting her time with Dar-Benn? I remember the villain's name. Hey, this movie's kind of coming to me now that I got to it. But, like, what are we doing here? Miss Marvel is great in this movie, but she's not enough to save this movie. It's not the worst MCU movie, but like it's a movie. Yeah, I guess it exists. That's the best way I can explain. The Marvels exist. It's not horrible. It's not that good either, like at all actually. And hey, at least it may have a post credit scene that might actually lead somewhere. Maybe at least you could say that with the Marvels. Ooh, yeah. As you can see, not a lot of these comic movies I liked this year. Boom, number 5. We're at the top 5, and number 5 I don't even like either. But it is The Flash. Now I will say, I definitely was hating on this movie just a little bit when it was initially coming out. I still don't like this movie, but like it's not horrible, I guess. I just hate having two Ezra Millers. I am not a big fan of Ezra Miller as the Flash. Well, I mean, outside of the obvious reasons of why I don't like Ezra Miller, just in the role of the Flash. I hope they can get all the help they need, but in terms of like playing the character, I've never cared for how Ezra portrayed Barry Allen that much. Also, to get two Barry Allens, where the younger one's even more annoying. So again, for me, I was like, oh god, yeah, I didn't really want to go through that. Plus, you have a Batman, Michael Keaton, that I don't like. I don't like Michael Keaton's Batman. That has to be. That's probably going to be a video in and of itself why I don't like Michael Keaton's take on Batman or Tim Burton's Batman at all. And, you know, you have a Supergirl that's underdeveloped, and you just have a main cast of characters that, for me, are not that interesting to go through. Also, the villains here are not interesting either. You have more evil Barry and then other evil older Barry. You know, they exist, I guess. And you have General Zod, who is like half the character he was in Man of Steel. And I'm not even a big fan of that movie either. So, you know, it was like, yeah. I mean, it's not the worst thing, like I said. It's not the worst DCEU movie. But it's not good either. Especially since Barry didn't really learn his lesson. It just did it anyways. He went back in time to tweak the timeline. And now we have George Clooney Batman in the DCEU. I'm telling you, The Flash and Aquaman were very fitting movies for the DCEU to end on, because it's just like, it's the awful crap that you would just put with the DCEU. Like, there was just no care at the end of the franchise. They were just doing whatever. Because, you know, Warner Bros. Doesn't care either. They're all planning to move on into 2025 with the DCU. So it was really just like, oh, this is how it ends? I mean, okay, I guess. Whew. All right. Number 4 is Blue Beetle. I actually liked Blue Beetle. From here on out, I actually liked these comic book movies that I'm talking about here. So, yeah. From 5 through 9, did not like any of them, which is a lot of them, by the way, that I did not like, but that's tough. But anyways, number 4, making the cut on the like side is Blue Beetle. And Blue Beetle is not a movie that is really revolutionizing superhero movies. It's pretty basic. But what makes it fun is like the family aspect of Blue Beetle, which is pretty cool. The action's also very engaging. And the Blue Beetle power set is pretty cool. And it makes for an entertaining power set to have during the movie. I mean, is it just Ant-Man basically? Yes. Is it a better version of Ant-Man? Absolutely. I would rather watch Blue Beetle over the first Ant-Man movie several times, because at least with Blue Beetle, I'm like, that has a lot of creative flair that the director, that's completely a director's decision. I also really like Blue Beetle because it's just the most disconnected. It's not a sequel like Shazam and Aquaman and kind of The Flash was-ish. I mean, this is just so disconnected that it could connect to James Gunn's DC universe, or it could connect to the DCEU if you really want to say it does. It doesn't matter. Who cares? I mean, he's gonna be in the DCU anyways. Unfortunately, not a lot of people watched it, but uh, hey, hopefully a lot of you guys watch Blue Beetle now because he's gonna be in the DCU. I think you should at least check it out. Not an amazing movie, but you should still check it out. Number 3, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. Yes, this counts because the Ninja Turtles came from the comics. So yeah, we're gonna count Mutant Mayhem. It's technically a comic book movie, and this is like the most comic booky movie, probably the second most comic booky movie. Um, in terms of looks and stuff, the visuals and everything. I love this story. I am biased. I do love the Ninja Turtles, but here I actually do like these versions. You know, I like Leo and the struggle he was having of becoming a responsible older brother compared to taking care of, you know, his brothers and having fun and being a teenager in his own right. Obviously, I still enjoyed the brothers. I thought Mikey and Donnie was the funniest of the whole movie. But Mikey and Donnie were funny. Raph had some very good, funny, and also very action moments, which was cool. April was valid. She was less annoying than 2012 April. So that's always a win for me. And Superfly was actually a pretty cool original Ninja Turtles villain. So yes, I enjoyed Mutant Mayhem. Was it adapting anything from the comics? Fuck no. Not even fucking close. Didn't even touch anything. I mean, the only thing it's really comic accurate towards is maybe their origin story. Loosely. But, you know, that's about it. It's still the most entertaining comic book movie that came out this year. And it was way better leagues better than any of the live action stuff that came out that is below it. I mean, Blue Beetle was pretty close to it in terms of quality. I enjoyed them. I mean, I had a fun time in August. Ninja Turtles, Blue Beetle, both were pretty good. I had fun. All right, number 2 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This to me was the perfect trilogy ender for the Guardians of the Galaxy. And it's actually my favorite MCU movie. So this year I got my favorite MCU movie and my least favorite MCU movie in the same year. That's crazy to me that, you know, that happened. Back to back, by the way. There was no weird project in the middle to break them up. But Guardians 3 was just amazing. The feels, the emotions with the characters, Rocket's origin finally being learned. As you know, I'm a huge Rocket Raccoon fan, so getting to see that was kind of cool. I thought the hallway fight to No Sleep Till Brooklyn was amazing. High Evolutionary is one of the best villains that Marvel has made since maybe Namor. I mean, that's not too recent memory. I mean, we get so many Marvel projects that they all feel so far away. But yeah, Namor, High Evolutionary, Green Goblin, some of the best villains of the multiverse saga so far, at least on the movie side of things. And overall, I thought the new team we got with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and how this movie just ended with all the characters splitting up and going their own ways, I thought that was great. I think James Gunn really nailed it. And for a movie that James Gunn could have really phoned in, because he was already fully in DC at this point. It was just that they were like, hey, we do need you to kind of finish Guardians 3, so, you know, we're going to hire you back just to finish it. James Gunn could have been like, all right, I'm going to get a paycheck for this anyways. I'm going to phone it in. But no, he didn't phone it in, and he gave probably one of the best pieces of work Marvel Studios has made in a very long time. And for that, we thank you, James Gunn, and we cannot wait to see what you have in store for the DCU. But coming in at number 1 is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. This movie, what a behemoth of a movie, man. This movie literally had me captivated from beginning to end. Beginning with Spider-Gwen's stuff with her father, Then you get into Miles and his family stuff, and then his relationship with his father, and how he kind of gives advice to his dad. Has Spider-Man. The whole battling his own destiny thing was pretty cool, you know, not being like the other Spider-Man. And do all Spider-Man need to follow the same tragedies? I guess Miguel O'Hara was a beast, and I thought Spot was pretty funny in the beginning, but at the end I was like, oh man, Spot's a legit threat. What kind of holds back this movie? And it's a similar problem that Insomniac Spider-Man 2 has. I mean, less for this movie though. Is that because they're sequels, they tend to go bigger. And what made the originals better were that they were just more smaller, contained movies. I mean, Insomniac Spider-Man was basically, the PS4 was a whole movie, but Into the Spider-Verse was just so self-contained in its madness that it actually worked, and it was a great Miles origin story. And I do think they continue Miles' story extremely well in this movie, but because it has to be bigger and grander, there's more convoluted plots and all this stuff happening, and for the most part it works. But yeah, sometimes it does get bogged down by that just a little bit. And also it ends on a cliffhanger, which is like, I know that must be annoying because it's animation. Animation takes a little longer than live action. Like if this was in live action, I would be like, okay, I mean, we're probably gonna get it. Oh, well, I mean, you know, the strikes happened, I guess, so we might wait a little longer. But like, you know, that thing could film right after. This is animation, and it already took them 5 years just to make this movie after the first one. So, you know, to wait for that cliffhanger is gonna be insane. And like the earliest we're probably gonna get this movie is 2026, which is nuts. Like maybe 2025, maybe 2025. Let's give them the benefit. Maybe we get it in 2025. But yeah, Beyond the Spider-Verse, oof. And Beyond the Spider-Verse, however that ends, I mean, it will really put the whole vision for the entire trilogy of the Miles Morales animated movies. But has a middle chapter. It has its own movie. It's pretty solid. It's a pretty solid middle chapter. And I actually am excited to see where they go with it. But with that, that is all 9 theatrical comic book movies that came out this year. What was your favorite comic book movie? Was it probably The Killer? Probably was. Or was it Spider-Verse, or was it Guardians 3? Let me know in the comments below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.